Good morning and welcome from Seattle. This is Thomas Cole with the Laplink Corporate Webinar Series. I'm very happy to have you all on the call today. I would like to talk about PC deployment and things you don't know about deploying Windows 10 or Windows 7 for that matter, and also talk about why USMT isn't the answer if you happen to use that. I will talk for about 30 minutes and we'll cover some of our experience with deployments with our customers, where we think the challenge lies today, and how can we fix some of the shortcomings that we see with our customers. By the way, this webinar is recorded, and afterwards you will get the PowerPoint as well as the recorded webinar if you want to see it again, or if you want to share it with your colleagues, and we will provide all of that to you. Just a quick word about Laplink. We are 32 years in business, always having focused on migration, file transfer, remote access. You probably know us for many, many years. Many of you have a cable from us at home from the old days when ad hoc networking was not that easy. But we have a lot of experience in migration, and in the beginning of the PC time, it was actually very easy. You would just take your 360K floppy from one drive to the new computer and put it in the drive there, and you migrated probably all your applications and all your data already. So that was very easy. With Windows, life has changed. It has become much more complex. Of course, computing has been so much more powerful, but today migrations have many more challenges, and we have to address that in very different ways. But we have focused on that and think that we can help you make refresh projects much more efficient. Now, over the last years, we had a lot of customers working with us across all industries, across government, across education. And there's really no customer segment that favors our application more or less. I think it's very much a horizontal application that goes for all refresh projects. But because there are very good IT-driven companies, we learned a lot from these customers. So before we go into the topic, just a quick word on Windows XP. Hopefully that time is over for us, but I think there's still some Windows XP pockets around. As you all know, Microsoft stopped the support for Windows XP last year, and they don't make any updates available anymore. Also, a change that Microsoft has been doing over the last version, Windows 8.1, and then finally in Windows 10, they cut all the features of migration in the product itself. Many of you perhaps use the Easy Transfer wizard in Windows, while this feature is gone in Windows 10. Instead, starting last year, Microsoft announced its support for Laplink PCMover as the tool of choice for migrating to a new PC, and they continue that this year as well. So we have a very strong marketing arrangement with Microsoft, and Microsoft basically endorses us as the expert in migration. Hopefully we can extend our expertise to you as well. So when we talk about the migration process, I like to divide the whole refresh project into 5 stages. Stage 1 is the inventory and compatibility analysis, determining what hardware and software needs you have. And I think you're probably doing that very well. This is a pretty known and documented process. The same in stage 2, new PC standards and portfolios get defined. What are your desktop images, all your testing, all your compatibility testing. Of course, you have to see what applications you're running. Are they compatible with Windows 10 or Windows 7 if you still go there, and what user scenarios you have. Again, these things are complex but well documented and a lot of best practices. When it comes to the stage 3, I'm more concerned because I think that this area has been always under-focused in the big research. Companies like Gartner and IDC are talking a little bit about migrating the user personality, meaning the application data and settings, to a new machine, but they underestimate gravely the cost of this migration, and they don't really focus on it. Stage 4 is the post-migration help desk. Clearly, after a user gets a new PC, there are calls to the help desk, and those are very costly. I estimate that every call probably is $50 to $80, according to our customers. And stage 5 is the reassignment or disposal of the old PCs, and you might give the old PCs to charity, to recycling, or to whatever secondary use. Now, just a word on erasing the old data. It's probably the biggest myth in Windows computing when you see the message pop up in Windows where it says, do you really want to permanently delete this file? Of course, you know that nothing is permanently deleted in Windows. And with any off-the-shelf tool, you can unerase a lot of the data. There were plenty of research where they bought hard drives from eBay or wherever you get them, and they've found government documents, financial documents, military data, as well as a lot of personal stuff, personal pictures, what have you, on these hard drives. So that is, of course, a strategy that you have to follow as well. We do have a product for that. It's called Laplink Safe Erase, but we will not focus in this webinar on that tool. But certainly, you should erase all the data from your hard drives. In my talk, I will really talk about the stage 3, and that is the migrating of the user personality, because I think that's where a lot of issues are, and I think we can help you with that. So from our customers, these are the issues we get. PC migrations take too long, require too many IT resources, and are often incomplete. That is, the #1 complaint that we get. Projects just take too long. It is just too costly. Secondly, departmental differences require too many planned scenarios, images, scripts, IT interactions. So it's not that a company or even, a larger company has just one image. It might be that there are several, or the image is so generic that it doesn't cover all the different scenarios in the departments. It is more than ever that departments have specific needs. It's just not Office. They have their own applications that they need to deal with. Logistical issues with loaners, remote users, and foreign locations. One of the biggest problems, of course, if you have limited IT staff in remote locations, it becomes a nightmare. User downtime of 3 hours and more. Whenever a new PC is brought to the desk, it takes time, and if you have to interact with a user, you can't do it in off hours. You have to do it when the user is there, and it creates much more than 3 hours of problems. Post-migration support calls. If the migration is not flawless, it will be an increase in support calls. And all this really results in unbudgeted costs and time overruns, as well as user dissatisfaction. At the end of the day, we believe that the negative cost impact in this stage 3 is $300 to $2,000 per desktop. That is quite a large amount of money. So here are 5 areas that I think we can avoid. Clearly, there are many more mistakes that can be made, but I think you are perfectly situated of avoiding them with good planning, thorough budgeting, and long-term experience and best experiences that can be deployed. But these are the areas that I think that we can avoid. First of all, let's not underestimate the soft costs that are associated with user downtime, user learning, data, and settings recovery. Of course, soft costs as such are not part of the IT budget, so it will not hit your budget. But the department head, the business owner, the division leader, they are very, very concerned when the users have downtime because productivity goes down, and that is very costly. I was talking with a CTO of a defense software contractor, and he said that to change a PC will have a downtime of about 1 week. They have so many configurations, so many things they have to redo that the user cannot work for a week. Now, that is a very extreme case, but you can imagine to have your developer down for a week because that's pure money, for that customer. And so there can be great concerns. Of course, also with data and settings recovery, if things are not done, it is left to the user. And the user really does not know the new PC, and most of the time they don't know anything about where settings are. The second area is what we think this is very clear rule is the more customization that is left for the end user, the higher the support cost after the migration. Again, if there's a standard image on the new PC, the PC is given to the user, they have to deal with the data, they have to deal with resetting some of the settings, and it will result in support cost. I mean, I had the same experience years ago when I was working for a very large company that is, of course, close to us here, Microsoft, and I would get a new PC, and I would just call my support, and they would be there on the double 3 or 4 times. And, so I spent more money than probably the PC was worth with the help desk support that I needed to get. At the end, because I always feared data loss, I actually kept all the hard drives of the old PC in my desk. And so I had a large collection of hard drives that I never looked at, but I was always afraid. I did not trust that I had all the data on the new PC. Remote users in field office, home office, and international subsidiaries increase cost exponentially, not just linear. It is very clear that remote users cost more money, but the amount spent is just tremendous because either you have to send IT staff to the remote offices. Of course, if you have home offices, that becomes really undoable. And with international subsidiaries, it's the same thing. You might not even know the language and what they have on the PCs. Data and settings are left behind. I was giving you the example that I always kept my hard drives, and actually I have, I still do that even though I'm sure that I have all the data. One gets used to that. Data and settings are left behind, and there are studies after studies which shows that if you don't have an automated, clear process, data and settings are left behind, and that creates this user dissatisfaction. It creates more cost. It creates going back to do it. And lastly, an incomplete application inventory results in added migration time and functionality loss. I think there was a famous case when Intel, as a poster child for Microsoft, was supposed to move very quickly to Windows 7 when that came out. And at the end, the IT department said, well, we couldn't move because we don't even know what applications the user has on their desktop. How can we prepare for it? And so the whole rollout got stuck because they had no clue what it was, because when they migrate only partially, the user would not accept that, and so the project was working extremely slow. So how can we help? We believe that with Laplink's PCMover technology, we can automate the whole migration and transfer process, which then reduces your overhead, saves your time, and reduces your risk. We do have a proven record of success in enterprise. You saw some of our customers just as a small group of all the customers we have. PCMover is a base technology that allows us to have a very flexible approach and support many scenarios, as you will see. At the end of the day, we believe that we can save you $300 to $2,000 per PC, and the projects will finish faster, morale is higher, and clearly it has an effect on the bottom line. So what can we address? Well, first of all, scenario number 1 is migrate to a new machine. Peer-to-peer transfer over the network or over the cable is the preferred way to go to a new PC, which means we transfer selected applications, data, and settings from the old machine to the new machine. and that can be done in a very automated fashion. In some cases where you want to put down a first image, then we can also, especially when it happens on the same machine, we can export all the application data and settings to an external storage device and then bring them back. There are some cases where you might want to export all the application data and settings to an external storage device and then perhaps even do the migration in a lab somewhere else. So these scenarios all can be supported. The second one is to upgrade to new Windows, to upgrade the PC, so-called in-place upgrade. Now with Windows 10, Microsoft, I think, has done a very, very good job to upgrade in place your Windows 7, Windows 8, and I think even Vista. When you're coming from XP, that is impossible because Microsoft does not support XP in any kind of in-place upgrade scenario. The second thing that they are not doing is also they are not moving from 32-bit to 64-bit. So when you have a 32-bit Windows installation and you want to go to 64-bit Windows, that will not work. So we support all these upgrades where we can do an in-place upgrade. Now, some of our corporate customers actually, when they want to do the in-place upgrade, they actually use the scenario 1 because they want to deal with a new image. So they will actually export all the application data and settings to an external drive, then put a new image on the PC, and then bring it all back. Scenario number 3 is very unique. Nobody else can do that, and that is recover from a hard drive or virtual hard drive. So in the case that you have PCs, and that doesn't have to be, this is not a mass scenario, but if you have a PC where the hard drive is still intact, but the PC doesn't boot, has blue screens, will not start properly, then you can attach the hard drive to the new PC, and we can extract the application data and settings to the new PC. That also works with an image. As you know, if you have an image of an old PC that you want to restore, it has to be on similar hardware, although the image vendor claimed to be hardware independent, but it's a bit of a pain. But when it comes to also having a new OS, you cannot do that. The image will overwrite everything on the new PC, which means your Windows license and all that comes with the new PC. Or if you put an image on it, that would also be destroyed. So image vendors cannot do an OS independent restore. That is for them impossible. We can. So if you can mount your image onto the new PC, we can also extract application data and settings in a selected form to your new PC. That works very well. There are some companies that actually deploy a very unique way, and that is the technician will extract the hard drive from the old PC, attach it to the new PC, and that is actually the fastest way to migrate to a new machine. But of course, that is not user-driven. That needs to be technicians, who do that. Scenario number 4 is physical to virtual, and that is that we can also move into a virtual machine. If you want to have a virtual desktop where you still run your Windows 7 or even your Windows XP or certain applications, we can also move into a virtual machine or from virtual to virtual. So what can PCMover migrate? Well, all installed application and the associated settings and registry entries. There are some caveats. Of course, if an application is, fails in your compatibility testing, so it will not run on Windows 10, then of course we cannot make that application suddenly run. We can transport it over, but it will not run. But the easiest way is, of course, that you can deselect those applications from moving, because you have your list of incompatible applications, and so PCMover can easily work with you. The second thing is we don't move any hardware drivers, and so applications with hardware drivers should be deselected, because these hardware drivers, of course, do not come with the application for Windows 10. And there are new hardware drivers for Windows 10. In that regard, we also suggest not to move any antivirus or anti-spy applications, because most of them have hidden hardware drivers, and these drivers are tied to your old PC, and they would not work with your new PC. And I think that all the antivirus vendors always come up with new versions for new operating systems to make sure that there are no holes. Otherwise, we can all move all drives, folders, files, all the user accounts, and that works very well. I always get the question, and that's why I put this slide in here, is when you talk about saving $300 to $2,000, well, when is it 300, when it's $2,000? How do we see that? And so we have this, what we call the PCMover Enterprise Value Quadrant, which is pretty easy to look at. On one side, it's PCs, whether they're centralized or decentralized, and on the other side, it's whether the PC is IT managed or they're user managed. User managed would mean that they're admins, they can install everything, and more companies have user managed PCs because with the whole bring your own all your devices, it also opens up the PC to install more and more applications. Today, people have 50 to 70 applications on their desktop, and some of them are not, standard IT-driven applications. They are what the user needs for their daily work. So if you're an organization where all the PCs are in a central location and they are totally IT managed, that means users cannot install anything, they don't have admin rights, all the data is on servers, nearly like a virtual desktop, then the value of PCMover goes to 0. On the other hand, if the users manage their PC themselves and they are decentralized, the value is the highest. So we do have customers, that report, how much savings they have. I think I have a small case study later on. But this is an easy way to look at, where the value is created. Now, I don't think that PCMover will work for every PC, but I think it will work for every organization because we will find PC scenarios even in the tightest IT-driven companies. I was talking with a worldwide chemical firm where they said, well, PCMover is not for us. We manage our PCs very tightly. Users cannot do anything. It is just a tool for them. They cannot change anything. And after some discussion, we discovered that, of course, their IT management is not the same for their subsidiaries, for their international subsidiaries, and they were flying out people to other countries where they said, well, we don't even know what they have on their desktops, and of course, any other department that is not part of the IT concept, have their own concepts, and so, of course, even this company that considers themselves totally IT managed, said that they probably have 40 or 50% PCs that don't follow that regime. So I think all companies can benefit from PCMover. I was talking about the upgrade challenge, so just a quick word on that. As I said, Microsoft does not support any upgrade path from Windows XP. Windows 10, most of that is supported, but when you go from 32 to 64-bit, that creates a problem. And of course, when you want to put your own image on it, the Windows 10 update doesn't help you because you already want to put a new image with it. With PCMover Upgrade Assistant, this is a very easy two-step process, and helps you save a lot of time and hours to reinstall everything on that PC. So I would urge you to check that out. Again, some of our corporate customers actually, when they do an in-place upgrade, they will use the file-based method where they first export everything to an external drive, then put on the image, and then bring it back. So for the enterprise, we also have some additional features. We added what we call the Policy Manager module, which basically enables the IT department to create migration policy according to the decisions that the IT department wants to do. So they can streamline the whole process. Whereas in a totally open system, the user will have 20 questions that they can answer. This can be all pre-answers, preset, and you can actually create policies that will have no-touch or very light-touch migration that can be executed by the end users. We have several companies that have driven end-user migration. So one very large pharmaceutical company did a worldwide rollout last year, where in 12 months they moved over 100,000 machines done by the users, and they were not a tech company. We have another company who just signed a 3-year license where they said, well, we will only send out the PCMover and the new PC to our users. They will do it themselves. And of course, if you're in a tech company, there might be more technical savvy people, but it just helps that you can preset a lot of that. These presets are done in your early testing. It's very easy to do. This policy manager is, wizard run, and so it's very easy. The PCMover client also is portable, so you can put it on a network drive or carry it around on a stick, so it doesn't have to be installed on the PCs. And lastly, we have enhanced the reporting so that you get detailed reports on what we move, and so that you can afterwards have a log of that. Here's a view of the policy manager. You can see on the left side there are a lot of screens that you can modify. Right now here, this is the application screen, and very easily you can create a whitelist or blacklist where you just load the application names into this list and say, no, I want to migrate or I don't want to migrate. And so the system will basically filter out these applications and either do it or not do it. So it's a very easy way to integrate whitelist and blacklist into the migration process. There's no development needed for the policy manager. Every IT admin, is very comfortable with it. In a couple hours, we do help do the first files and work with our customers during the testing phase. So let's talk about SCCM and USMT. First of all, the System Center Configuration Manager that you get from Microsoft is fully supported, so we have a command line prompt option so that you can use SCCM with PCMover and deploy it remotely. Some of you might also are familiar with the user state migration tool from Microsoft, and although it's a very good tool, first of all, it does not move applications if you have the need for it, and secondly, it's a toolkit. So you have to have developers, XML developers, that really develop, where the data goes from here to there, and it makes the starting the migration process much more complicated and more complicated than it should. So the other problem, of course, is that any kind of change management, is very takes a long time, and sometimes you don't have the IT resources anymore that develop the scripts from the last time, and if you need changes, you need have people look at old code. Makes it all very difficult. So USMT is a good tool for the enterprise. It's free for, I think, enterprise customers, but it's also the startup costs are very high. So I have a little cost analysis here, and I don't have to go through it all together, but despite the fact that there are no license costs per se, although it's probably hidden in a lot of the other agreement costs, the configuration and evaluation will take much more time. It needs developers. It needs much more configuration. And unfortunately, the study shows that using automated tools like USMT, where there's a manual configuration needed, data loss is always imminent. And I think the study that I saw just several months ago was that 27% of enterprises using automated tools like this said that they had data loss. Now that is just too high of a number. We're not talking about 0.5%. We're talking nearly a third of customers complaining that they had data loss. And data loss means loss of trust, cost, help desk going up, and it is at the end the total cost of ownership is much higher with USMT. But if you have a USMT process successfully in place, I would suggest that you run PCMover afterwards to make sure that you capture all your data and also move those applications that you need to do. That is totally fine, but I would not rely on USMT alone because of the limitations of the software. So here are just a couple case studies that I wanted to show. Where the first one is a financial company, a bank, who said they saved about 40% of time versus doing the migration manually, and 40% of labor cost, is a big number, and it's totally understandable if you have to deploy technicians to every desktop. It was interesting. We just had a customer call today. He said that he is in a college situation, and he has to send his technicians out to every PC, hoping that the PC owner is there. If it's not, they have to come again, and then they have to basically discuss with the owner what needs to be moved, and the whole migration is a day. So they have no chance to move hundreds of PCs in any kind of timetable. The other case study here was an insurance company with remote offices. And there they claim that we saved them $1,500 per desktop alone in logistics cost. That, of course, is a dramatic cost. But what they were doing is they were sending a loaner to the remote user, get their PC back, did the migration, sent the new PC there, got the loaner back, had to deal with the differences in data that was now on the loaner, reinstall the loaner, send it to the next person. So that was no way to handle that migration. And after that, the logistic cost was dramatically improved, and they claim that we saved $1,500. So I totally believe that. So to recap, PC migrations take too long, require too many IT resources, and they aren't complete. We believe that with automating the migrations with PCMover Enterprise, it will reduce your overhead dramatically and saves you between $300 and $2,000 per PC. Plus, you can finish your projects much faster with higher end-user morale. So I think that is a clear message that I think we can send. We hope that we can engage with you on your pilot projects, discuss how PCMover can help you with policy files, and experience PCMover in your environment. That should be very quick. We will follow up today with sending you this PowerPoint, sending you the video. It always takes a couple hours to be available from WebEx. And you will also get an introduction to our reps that are responsible for you. Otherwise, if you have any other questions, please send us email to corpsales@laplink.com or call us, and we are happy to engage right away. Even if your project is ongoing, I think it makes a lot of sense to check out PCMover to see if we can expedite your process and perhaps finish that much faster than you thought, and drive your costs down that you have perhaps with your system integrators, your outsourcers, etc. That would still make a lot of sense if you're already doing your migrations. With that, I want to thank you that you took the time today and listened to me. Again, we will follow up and hope that we can engage with some of your projects. Thank you very much, and have a great day.